So I've noticed it's been a thing online recently to just kind of hate on 9-to-5s and talk about how they're the worst thing ever, and even sometimes compare it to slavery if you're Andrew Tate. I find a lot of this stuff interesting because I recently started my 9-to-5, and I never really would have had any thoughts about how it's the worst thing ever if I didn't see all these TikToks trying to tell me that what I'm doing is the worst thing ever. So I'm gonna watch a few videos of people talking about how they hate 9-to-5s, and I'm going to maybe talk about some points from my experience and kind of looking into the lens of someone with more experience than me and why it might not be the worst thing ever. But I am gonna point out the reason why I think people actually do hate 9-to-5s, which I'll go over later in this video.
It's, again, trading my time for money. That just, and then you think about it. You're doing, right now I'm at my job. I'm at my 9-to-5, 12 to 10. That's my schedule today, 12 to 10. Imagine doing that 5 days a week, 4 weeks for a month, 12 months out the year, for 50 years. I can, that's crazy. And what's really crazy is that they designed it specifically like that. They designed it where no matter how much time you give away, you can never amass or accumulate a mass amount of money. So that way you never gotta give your time away.
So this guy's point is you can never actually accumulate a mass amount of wealth while working a 9-to-5. And this point is just not true, and I'm not sure why this guy's even saying this. If you go to your 9-to-5 and you're actually chasing a better career, you're chasing more money, and I guess you're driven or whatever, then you can totally accumulate a lot of wealth. The thing about working and doing a 9-to-5 and just being an employee, this was never a problem until people started pulling up on TikTok and flexing their rental Lamborghinis and stuff and just showing a fake lifestyle that made normal people like us, I guess, have to feel bad for just being normal and existing. You know, the thing is, you need to earn money somehow. And unless you inherit a ton of money, you're gonna have to work a job at some point in your life. Unless you're, I don't know, Elon Musk or something and you're the smartest person in the world. But that's not anyone online. People online are just pretending that they're doing that. If you have a 9-to-5, don't feel bad. Realistically, a lot of the people on TikTok saying start a business could easily just be renting a Lamborghini or having super rich parents. And another thing that also blew this out of proportion is Airbnb. Now with Airbnb, you can rent a super nice house for a day and record in it and pretend it's yours.
I don't never want to come on here and shit on 9-to-5s because I had a 9-to-5. 2 of them actually. Started at Kroger as a bagger, and then after Kroger, I went to TJ Maxx.
Okay, so the reason I threw the second clip in here is because he's saying he had a 9-to-5 and he worked at Kroger as a bagger and worked at TJ Maxx. But the reality of this is that's not what a 9-to-5 is. You know, in that case, if we're just counting any job as a 9-to-5, then I've worked 4 9-to-5s. You know, I've worked as a busser and a waiter and I guess a couple internships before my actual 9-to-5 now. If you want to make the argument that working as a grocery bagger at the Kroger sucks, then I'm okay with that, but don't call it a 9-to-5. That is not what I'm talking about. That's not what this video is about.
I actually think that it's insane that as adults, we have to ask other adults if it's okay that we take time off to live our own lives, to live the lives that we want to live. That's what it's like to work a 9-to-5. That's what it's like to have a regular ass job.
All right, so we got this guy here and he's just tripping balls over having to ask his boss to take PTO. Having to ask for PTO, honestly, is not something that should be seen as so surprising and the worst thing ever. I think this guy's just kind of tripping about nothing here. Like, if you really think about it, when you're taking PTO at a job, your job's paying you like hundreds of dollars every day you take it to literally just do nothing to help them. Honestly, somewhat, I do agree with him on one point, and a lot of jobs should be giving more PTO because a lot of jobs have down seasons that are pretty long where they're not super busy. And I don't know why those jobs that aren't busy only allow people to take 3 weeks of PTO. You know, if someone's already not contributing, you might as well let them not contribute out of the office compared to in the office. But this guy acting like having to ask your boss to take PTO some big deal is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. If I'm asking someone to just pay me a bunch of money to not do any work, I'm not gonna feel weird about asking about that because that's completely fair that I can't just do that whenever the heck I want. Having to ask your boss, being the little guy, being like, yo, can I take a day off? It's a little bit humbling, I guess. The thing is, I think entitlement and ego are the real reasons people are kind of hating their 9-to-5, and I can dive into that a little bit deeper. People hate 9-to-5s because it's the first time in their life that they realize you're not special. Your life is just the same as everyone else's. Because the reality is, in high school and middle school, which were super fun and I guess college too, you're required to show up a lot of the time, not really in college, but middle school, high school, you're required to show up. You make friends with your classmates, it's fun, but it's still work. You're still there for 8, maybe 7 hours a day back then. It's not like you're just free doing whatever you want as a kid, and you're not allowed to just not show up to class pretty much ever. In school, we are fed this propaganda like, the world's your oyster, you can do anything you put your mind to, you're special. You're not special, okay? You're the same as everyone else. We're all the same. I know that obviously Steve Jobs and stuff are the very rare exceptions, but for some reason, everybody thinks that's gonna be them. If everybody was them, then there wouldn't even be a them. And yeah, you just get told so many stupid propaganda like, follow passion, you'll never work a day in your life. And then boom, you get in the real world and you realize that if you followed your passion, you'd be broke and homeless, and that some people actually need to work a real job. A lot of people, they get to their 9 to 5s and they realize like, oh, I'm not special and my career's not really going anywhere because they didn't do well in school. But in school and in college, you're kind of on the same train tracks as everyone else. But once you get to the 9 to 5, you're now in the real world. All of your previous actions have now led up to what you're in now, and what you've become is now completely your fault. And I think it's the first time people actually realize like, oh, these are the consequences of how I've lived my life forever. And that's why they hate their 9 to 5 so much. And it's kind of funny because when you really think about it, these people making these videos, hating on 9 to 5s, a lot of them are just blaming the 9 to 5. But the reality of the situation was, first of all, you're not special. But second of all, the reason you hate your 9 to 5 is somewhat your fault. You had crazy expectations for yourself. For some reason you were delusional enough to think that you were somehow going to magically turn into Bill Gates after 18 to 23 years of just being mediocre. All right, let's watch a 4th video of a course seller talking about 9 to 5s and see what he has to say here.
You work a 9 to 5, right? The money you make is not made in 9 to 5. That's just not how it is. Where is your real money being made right now? Your real money is made in your 5 to 9, what you do afterward. Because a job, there's no salary job that will get you rich.
There's no salary job that will get you rich. That is such an amazing quote. Most small businesses fail, so let's just get that cleared. Second of all, I will say there's definitely some salary jobs that will get you rich. Now, I will say, there is no 9 to 5 normal job that is going to get you what TikTok seems to be feeding down our throats. And that is the lifestyle of not working hard, starting some stupid business that provides no use to society, and somehow making $50,000 a month at the age of 20. But realistically, buying these idiots' courses isn't gonna do that either. So you can either just pick this guy's lies or just do things the normal way and just get a job. And yeah, I think that's why that guy's video is appealing. Oh, my 5 to 9, I'm gonna have some crazy thing I do after work that's gonna get me out of the rat race, and I'm gonna escape the matrix, and I'm different than everybody else, and I'm gonna prove everyone that I am special. I know what I'm saying is negative, but what I'm saying is probably better advice than what most people online are giving, because at least what I'm saying is to give up on these stupid ideas of maybe buying this idiot's course and not actually striving for a good career. Instead of doing that, actually trying to be successful the normal traditional way. And if most people did that, they'd be so much better off. The advice these people are spreading is just coping and stupid propaganda to get them to sell their courses. Look, if you want to have some side hustle after work, or you want to have some fun hobby, whatever, subscribing to these people is just the most delusional thing that anyone can do. But yeah, I hope if you are someone that thought they're special, that my video kind of demotivated you a little bit and brought you a little bit closer back down to the real world. Because the reality of the situation is there's nothing wrong with having a 9 to 5. You're probably gonna have one. And if you don't, it's not because you're some successful entrepreneur, it's probably just because you're lazy and broke. The only thing worse than having a 9 to 5 is literally doing nothing and thinking that you're gonna magically become a millionaire.